I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition. It is January 23rd, 2014. Tonight I'm going to be getting into a few different topics, a couple things I've been wanting to tear into, and I think actually for the first time ever here on DTRH, you'll actually hear me utter the phrase, I have to agree with Piers Morgan. I know. What, Popeye? Did hell just freeze over? Why are my ears suddenly ringing after I said that? People are like, what? Are you kidding me? You'll see why in a second. I'll play it. It's him versus Ann Coulter. So, it's like the lesser of two evils, I guess. I mean, they both suck. They're both idiots. But in the audio clip I'm going to play, which I just have to because I saw it last night and my jaw was on the floor. In fact, my wife, who is usually generally calm while she's listening to me do audio editing or whatever, sometimes I lock myself. If I'm in deep edit mode, I lock myself in the studio, cut myself off from the internet, everything. But there are times that she'll come in and hang out. I have a little love seat set up so she can come and chill out. And I have a second computer in here. And she'll stream videos and stuff and chill with me. So last night she was hanging out with me. And I was doing some editing. And I find this video clip of Ann, radiation is A-OK for you, Coulter. And it made her so angry, she actually jumped out of the chair she was sitting in. And I didn't have it blasting. I had it turned down. She was watching something else, paying attention to something else. She turned around, jumped out of the seat, and I had to physically refrain her from ripping my monitor off my desk. She was like, are you kidding me? Like, she literally jumped up and got mad and started screaming at the monitor and was like, and she didn't even have her eyes on the screen. And again, my wife, who is not political, turned around and she goes, is that who I think it is? Is that Ann Coulter? The same idiot that said Fukushima radiation is good for you? Yes. After the earthquake and tsunami. Anybody remember that? Yeah. She was on Fox News. Even O'Reilly looked at her like, what are you, a moron? Really? Anyway. So yeah. I'm actually going to be forced to somewhat agree with Piers Morgan. I shudder at the thought. Anyway, well, see, civilized people can agree on certain things once in a while. You'll see what it's about in a second. Anyway, we're going to get into that. This country, and actually the world, the obsession for fame, how a nation is brainwashed, and then I'm going to get into prescription drugs and their side effects. I have 2 articles from Alternate that I've been wanting to read to you. One of them is specifically on Ambien alone, and I read it, and I already knew it was bad. I've known people that have taken it, and they've all had these same weird side effects. And anybody I've ever talked to about it that's taken it, 9 times out of 10 has told me they've had side effects. Rarely have I ever heard that somebody was like, no, I didn't have a side effect. Okay, sure. So I saw this article the other day, and I read like the first paragraph, and it had me just hooked because I was, oh my God, finally somebody's talking about the stuff that Ambien does. People have mentioned it, and they've mentioned it here and there, kind of like anecdotal. This article is really good, in depth. It gives a couple different cases. So I know a lot of people that still think it's great sleep aid. No. Look, if you want a sleep aid, if you're tired, cannabis. Popeye, you're promoting smoking pot. I'm just going to... I'm going to give up, trying to fight that argument. It's not smoking pot. People just don't smoke pot to get high. I mean, they do. But there's a lot of medical benefits to it, too. And, by the way, even if somebody only did smoke it to get high, can I ask a question? Because this is actually going to segue into my clip for Ann Coulter here. Because this is the topic that I happen to be on. Who cares? Honestly. Who cares? Whose business is it? Whose business is it of mine, or anybody else's, to tell a grown adult what to do? What to do with their time, their body, what to put in there. They can drink alcohol, right? Right? You can get drunk and drink all the alcohol you want. You can go out and buy cigarettes. Well, that's on its way out. I'm willing to bet that's going to be dead soon. Not be allowed to smoke cigarettes or anything. They're going after e-cigarettes now. Anyway, what's the big deal about somebody getting high? Who cares if someone smokes pot just to get stoned? Can I ask you that? Who cares? Who cares if someone smokes pot just to get a buzz here and there? You go out to drink, right? You go to a bar? I don't care if someone goes home and smokes a joint. I don't think they're going to go pick up a meat cleaver and chop up the next door neighbor. I mean, there's worse things they can do. Meth, coke. How about prescription drugs? Wait till I read what was going on with Ambien. Just ridiculous. Wait, the article is really... I read about a paragraph and a half, 2 paragraphs, and I was just like, holy crap. Now I know it's not just the people that I know, and I already knew that, but again, it just goes to show, it drives the point home. Bam! Prescription drugs are way worse than pot anyway. I digress. Who really cares? Who really cares? I don't. I don't care what someone does with their own personal body. I don't. It's not my business. You could poke holes through it and stick, sticks through your cheek like the people out in the Amazon do and put a big plate in your lip. I don't care. It's not my business. It is not my business at all. If you get sick from doing it, I mean, I could show you the evidence and say, hey, maybe there's something wrong with what you're doing, but it's not my business to enforce what I feel is morally right or wrong on you. See, that's what the war on drugs really becomes about. The war on morals. You'll see in a second. I'm going to play this audio clip. Because, A, it's comical. I can't stand Ann Coulter. Everybody knows that. B, again, just like the DEA agent the other day, she makes an argument for legalization of it without even realizing it, trying to go against it. When he was like, well, we don't want the cartels to be able to have drugs and, control everything and blah, 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 blah. Well, that's what legalization's all about, moron. So, well, Ann Coulter kind of does the same thing. She makes the case. She makes the case itself for legalization. I'll point it out. She doesn't even realize it, though. That's the sad part. Here's the sad part. Piers Morgan figured it out. He points it out to her. I know. First time in DTRH history that you're ever going to hear me agree with Piers Morgan, right? But let's get to the clip. Here we go.
Absolutely no evidence that cannabis is any worse
than alcohol.
So why is it illegal and cannabis...
Well, I'm trying to answer, but as soon as I answer, you're going to interrupt me and say, no, it's not,
you keep saying that's untrue, but then explain why.
But I keep trying to when you keep interrupting. Now I'm going to explain now. So don't interrupt. Look, the sole purpose for smoking pot or eating a pot brownie is to get high. That is not true with alcohol.
Yes,
People
it is.
Enjoy.
Wait. What? I got to rewind. 25 seconds into a 4-minute clip, and I have to rewind it already. And I'm going to try to get this done, everything in the first hour, because I want to spend the second on or at least most of the second on the prescription drug articles. I want to read and go over the side effects and stuff. But let's listen. I got to rewind it a few seconds so you could hear what she just said again, just in case you didn't quite catch it. She says that the only reason to smoke pot or eat a marijuana cookie or brownie is to get high. Of course, ingesting the cannabis would also help you medically with pain, inflammation, other things. Where she obviously doesn't take that into consideration, that you have to eat things to ingest it. That's the point of eating. Food is actually sustenance. Very, very good, Ann Coulter. Thank you for Biology 101. But obviously she failed that class. But she actually said that the only reason why people smoke pot or eat a marijuana cookie or brownie is to get high. And Piers logically said, well, what about drinking? Well, no, that's not the only reason why people drink. Well, what? So you're telling me people go to their doctor, and the doctor says, hey, have you been taking your 3 shots of Grey Goose a day like I told you to? No, doc, I've only been taking 1 shot of Grey Goose a day. Well, I have to write you up. I told you I medically prescribed you 3 shots of Grey Goose a day. No. Said no doctor ever. Maybe a glass of wine, Ann. But no doctor ever said going to the bar and getting hammered on a daily basis is done for medical reasons. Anybody that tries that, lie. Really? I got a bridge in Brooklyn. But here, I rewound it. Let's listen again.
You keep saying that's untrue, but then explain why.
I keep trying to when you keep interrupting. Now I'm going to explain now. So don't interrupt. Look, the sole purpose for smoking pot or eating a pot brownie is to get high. That is not true with alcohol.
Yes,
People
it is.
enjoy. Well, maybe you're a 14-year-old. They're going to keg parties still.
Everybody drinks alcohol to get slightly higher than when they start drinking it. Surely. It's the point of drinking alcohol.
Absolutely. I have done TV after drinks. I bet you have too.
Are you
I'm
intoxicated
drunk
now?
right now.
That would explain a lot of things. Have you ever smoked pot?
Wait, would you please let me finish one sentence, Piers Morgan?
You'll take...
Now, she probably is drunk, and I can't stand her harpy shrew-like voice, but you wouldn't surprise me if you watched the video, you could see she probably did have a couple drinks. But her argument doesn't make any sense. It lacks total validity. So people only smoke pot to get high, but they want to drink? They don't drink to get drunk. They don't drink to get a little bit of a buzz. No. They drink for medical reasons. It's good for your liver. You drink it, it gives you strength. And what are you, a snake oil salesman? Man, you could have helped out the Rockefellers back when that's how they started off as literal snake oil salesmen. You could have been a mouthpiece for them. Really? Bottle Fukushima radiation water gets rid of cancer. And here, slosh that down with I don't know, quart of Mad Dog 2020. Ugh. Kind of fine wine that you see vapor trails as people pass you by after drinking it.
You're rambling.
People enjoy wine. They drink wine for a purpose. They will buy $800 bottles of wine. Perhaps you have a warm feeling. It does not. You can tell if somebody's been smoking pot. Their eyes are red. They giggle at everything. And by the way, they're incapable of carrying on the normal functions of life.
Have you ever smoked pot?
No, I haven't.
Never in your life?
Almost none of my friends have because they're athletes.
So how do you know what it does?
Because I'm around potheads.
Wait, so her friends who are athletes don't smoke pot because they're athletes. What about, what's his name? Phillips, the swimmer with the big ears, the Olympic kid. Didn't he get like the most medals in Olympic history too? Didn't he set a record for that or something? Right? Blatant pothead. I mean, admitted pothead. Stoner, whatever other ad hominem label you want to add to it, whatever. The kid ingests cannabis. We'll say admitted cannabis user, because I can't stand the term pothead. You'll hear that thrown around in a second. Olympic athlete. And your argument is not valid. At all. At all. And I know a ton of other athletes that smoke or ingest cannabis for different reasons. She just said that pot smokers are pretty much lazy. Wait, it gets worse. She says they're bad for commerce. I couldn't make this up. This is the ignorance. And I'm going to tell you what. She has an audience that believes this. And there are people out there that still, this is the argument. This is the death throes of the drug war. This is them putting their mouthpieces out there. I mean, I don't even know if she actually believes what she's saying or if this was just talking points fed to her so that they could just create this whole false argument to begin with. But I had to point this out. Because it's important to point this out because this is the argument that's being pushed by the media and the government, regardless. It's always for the children. What's the message we're going to send to the children? That we're not intolerant, barbaric a-holes? How about that? How about that's a message to send to the kids? No, you're telling them it's okay to take heroin, Popeye. Facepalm. Back to the video.
Many of my best friends are potheads.
How many potheads do you have?
In fact, a lot of them, look.
She just contradicted herself. She said her friends aren't potheads, and then many of my friends are potheads. So which is it? Most of your friends aren't potheads, or most of them are potheads? Liar, liar. She's like, more than likely, this conversation, this whole argument, is a false argument to begin with. She doesn't really believe it. A lot of times, this is what they do. Okay, they create. Remember, what they're doing is they're setting up the debate of left versus right. That's the whole paradigm they're still pushing. And I can't stand Piers Morgan. Okay, I can't stand him at all. Okay, he's still number one D-bag extraordinaire. But if you look at this as the average viewer, you'd be forced to take his side, right? Right? Because anybody with any logic would go, wow, well, Piers is right on this one. Ann Coulter's a moron. Must be that conservative, bent of thinking. That's the way they think, those people. Piers is more of the liberal-minded. They're for cannabis legalization. You see how they're framing the argument already, trying to frame the divide? See what they're doing? It's all about perception. But it's important that I point out the stupidity of her argument, whether she believes it or whether or not they're talking points that are fed to her, because regardless, it's the exact same verbiage that's being used right now. The DEA guy flipping out, oh my God. I mean, he went off the rails. I pointed that out the other day. You should go back and listen to that episode from last week. Holy crap. I think it was last Thursday or last Friday I did that episode. Last Friday, I think it was. That guy went off the rails. Oh my God. He started talking about legalization of cannabis and went from there to, 20 years ago you couldn't work with the Colombians, and it was like, what? What are you talking about? Same thing here. There's not really a valid argument. She's just throwing talking points out there. Whether or not, again, she believes it or not doesn't even matter. I have to point this out because this is the argument that's being thrown around now. I've even heard rational people mimic this stuff. And I'm like, what? Come here, let me just slap you in the face for a second, because I really love and respect you, but your brain isn't functioning properly right now. Just let me reboot that thing. Let me hit the refresh button. F5, your brain.
potheads can still get their pot. They're probably self-medicating. But the more people who take it, and if it is made legal, vastly more people will take it. And it will be a disaster for commerce.
Why? Why for commerce?
Because potheads are incapable of following simple instructions and getting a job done. I used to carry around as my sole argument against...
So, by the way, I want all of you that smoke or ingest cannabis, because that's what she's saying, you're a pothead. I want all of you to find, I don't have her email available, but just, I'm sure, look her up on your favorite search engine of choice, Ann Coulter, okay? Find her on Facebook or Twitter, and hey, let her know how you feel. I don't even have to give out her Twitter contact info. It's, all that stuff's public. Just go find her on Facebook or Twitter. Let her know how you feel. She just said that anybody who ingests cannabis, obviously, i.e. in her eyes, a pothead who, quote-unquote, self-medicate, okay, so that's anybody who's ingesting cannabis, whether you're eating it or smoking it, you're incapable of doing anything. You all understand that? You're all incapable of doing anything. You're a bunch of stupid retards, is basically what she just said to you. Do I believe that? No. You know I love and respect every single one of you, and I personally think that you are all capable of infinite possibilities. Ann Coulter seems to think otherwise. So feel free to find her on Facebook and Twitter and let her know how you feel.
Pot legalization.
But it's like saying alcoholics
as I was saying,
have a drain on the economy.
To pick up in the middle of the sentence I was just on before you
what do you mean by
interrupted
pothead?
Was when I moved to a new place in California and there was a pool, and the pool guy didn't, I come back and it's 4 feet down and it's covered with green mold, and I called him up. He was a pothead. Oh, I was there that day. So I took 3 pictures, and henceforth that was my argument. I don't happen to have my eyes.
So a single pool cleaner who showed up to clean the pool happened to maybe have red eyes because he was smoking a joint on the way to the job, which, whatever. And that's your argument, that they're useless because, look, the pool was dirty and he's a stupid, dirty pothead, and stupid, dirty pothead couldn't even clean my pool? I need a clean pool at all times. I'm Ann Coulter. I'm one of the media elite. Don't you know I'm an author? Is that what you call yourself? I would say you're more so a producer of good kindling in case of an emergency. You could carry her book in your bug-out bag and tear the pages out and roll them up and use it to start fires.
Let me try and stop the stream of consciousness.
We can't get anything done with a pothead. What we need to do is encourage people...
What do you mean by a pothead?
Everyone knows what a pothead is.
What does it mean?
It's not smoking pot one time.
So how much are you assuming a pothead takes?
Enough so that it can be made fun of on TV by Brad Pitt in this movie.
So like a heavy drinker or a heavy smoker?
So wait a minute. So because the media portrays cannabis users in an incorrect fashion, they overdo it when they do parodies of it. The cannabis user or pot smoker in a TV show or a movie is always it's kind of like a stereotype, okay? And the media has set it up that way, just like other stereotypes. But yet we're told that this is how invalid and conflicting this argument is. Think about it. You're told to not judge people based on stereotypes that are put forth by TV and the movies and the media, right? You're told everybody should be judged equally and not judgmental and blah, 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 blah. And here she is judging, quote-unquote, potheads by the stereotypes in TV shows and movies. I mean, her argument is, well, they're so useless that, look how movie actors and stuff portray them. Have you ever heard of satire or parody, Ann? When you went to college and got that big fancy degree that you have probably encased in plastic up on your wall, did you ever learn common sense? Did they teach that course? Did they ever teach the course of how not to open your mouth and insert your foot all the way up to your ass cheek because you're good at it?
Yeah.
No, heavy smokers work all night and then die young, saving the Social Security system money. We, for commercial purposes, for the purposes of the good of the country, we ought to encourage Americans to smoke like mad. They'd be incredibly productive, and then they'd die young and not have long, lingering deaths. Potheads, no, I'm going to be paying for their food, housing, now for their health care, apparently, because they can't perform any useful job. Can you imagine if,
the vast majority of people that...
So potheads can't perform any meaningful jobs. I couldn't make this up. Potheads couldn't perform any meaningful jobs. And do you know how many people around you in your everyday life ingest cannabis in one form or another, and you just don't have any idea because it's illegal? I'm doing air quotes. It's illegal and evil. So they don't openly tell people about it because maybe they'll lose their job or whatever, but they consume it in one way, shape, or form. You know how many people? A lot. I was surprised to find out over the years how many people around me over the course of time you would realize one way or another that they ingested cannabis. And it would be a wide variety of people. Old people, young people, accountants, bookkeepers, CEOs, truck drivers, librarians, doctors. I guess they're all idiot potheads. How about the audio I played the other day, showing the medical evidence that how it was helping those 3 different people? I guess they're all just raging idiot potheads who can't do anything in life either, right? Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Let Ann know how you feel. Find her on Facebook or Twitter. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Let's finish up with this. Get through this invalid argument. It's important to drag this thing out, spread it out on the desert floor, nail it down, and then shoot it in the head once and for all. That way, this argument is done. And when it's brought up again, we can go, look, we debunked, killed, and buried that argument. It's invalid. Next. Because you're going to run into somebody in your life where you're going to get into this conversation about the legalization of cannabis and the health benefits and everything else, and they're going to bring up arguments like this. Because, unfortunately, there will be people out there that believe what Ann Coulter has to say. By the way, she's the same individual. You can look this up. You can find it on YouTube or probably any other video streaming site. After Fukushima, she's the one that said that the people of Japan should be happy because the radiation would keep them free of cancer, because people, when they get cancer, go and get radiation treatment. Again, even Bill O'Reilly looked at her like, are you a moron? You know what I'm saying? You got one egotistical moron looking at you and giving you the Spock eyebrow, like, wow, you're really out of line. Like, really? He's telling you you're out of line? Really?
Take marijuana on a recreational basis are not, by your definition, potheads.
The point is,
in the same way that most people who drink alcohol are not alcoholics or heavy drinkers with a problem.
Once the cat is out of the bag, you can't put it back in. That was the problem.
Yeah, but here's the issue is not that.
Again, to pick up where I was in the middle of my sentence, but during Prohibition...
The issue is not that, is it? The issue is, why do we treat
every alcohol-related disease, cirrhosis of the liver, accidents as a result of alcohol, went down precipitously.
She's such a defender of alcohol because I think she had a couple drinks before she went on the show. She did admit earlier, like a minute and a half into the video, or like maybe a minute into the video, that she sometimes drinks before she goes on air. Hint, hint.
Will go up. We will have this is how many potheads we have when it's illegal. I think that's just about enough.
Let me ask.
So Ann Coulter thinks that the amount of people that are quote-unquote labeled as potheads are enough. We don't need any more in society. It's okay for everybody to go out to the bar and drink, but they do so for health reasons, not because they're going out there to get a buzz. So you're going to tell me, after a hard day's work, everybody goes, hey, the guys get together, they all go, hey, you want to go out for drinks? It's healthy. It's gonna make us healthier individuals. No, they're going out to get a buzz on, get drunk. What do people go to clubs and drink? What's DUI? If people don't drink to get drunk, then why do we have DUI laws? Right? I mean, I guess they're not. Aren't those people just drinking for health reasons? The officer should leave them alone. It doesn't matter if they cause an accident. It was an accident caused by health. They had too much to drink of a healthy substance. That was the problem. Their body was overreacting to the health that was in the alcohol. And perhaps you should look into a rehab program. Perhaps? Maybe you're showing signs that you're drinking a wee bit too much, huh? When you're saying that alcohol, like wine, a glass of wine a day, okay. But like I said earlier, I don't think the doctor of ever in history ever said 3 shots of vodka a day will do you fine. Maybe back in the Old West. I can't find any current doctor that would tell you to go out and or even more. Oh, you want to drink a 6-pack a day? That's fine. Want to drink half a case or a case of beer? Go drink a case of beer. Drink a case of beer a day. Well, maybe a 6-pack's kind of low. I mean, because that's not that big of a deal. But every day, all day long. Eventually, the 6-pack wouldn't be enough. You'd probably need more, right? Because you'd start to build a tolerance. What's that called? Oh, but alcohol's not bad for you. You can't get addicted to alcohol, can you, Ann? No. Ugh, invalid argument. I would love to debate her. And anybody else that has this stupid argument, or any stupid arguments for that matter.
Nobody has ever overdosed on cannabis. Did you know that?
So what? They can't perform daily functions. They're going to be on my tax bill.
But you accept that people die of smoking. You accept that people...
So, it doesn't matter if no one's ever overdosed on it. They can't perform daily functions. According to her, people that ingest cannabis can't perform daily functions, and they're going to be on her quote-unquote tax bill. I'm going to get less money back from my taxes because of these dirtbags that get food stamps or welfare, because only people on welfare or food stamps smoke pot or ingest cannabis. And they only do it to get high because they're dirty scumbag potheads. Really, Ann? Really? Again, find her on Facebook and Twitter, ladies and gentlemen, and send her some love.
An overdose on too much alcohol.
Well, everybody dies eventually.
That's your answer.
No, but to say people die of smoking, what is considered a smoking death is any heart attack is considered a smoking death.
The point is that the argument is that alcohol...
That's a true fact, by the way. Someone who has never smoked will be considered a smoking death.
Heavy consumption of alcohol or heavy consumption of cigarettes is more dangerous to your health.
No, it isn't. Alcohol
cannabis.
is good for you. You take out the category. Have you been reading the Science Times? It's study after study. Alcohol is good for you. You should have a glass a day.
Okay, so then what causes cirrhosis of the liver? What causes people to become alcoholics, maybe who can't control themselves on alcohol? Maybe they get drunk and they drive drunk. And, I understand, Ann, you can afford to get drunk because you can afford a car service. Because you got it like that. Little Miss Author, Little Miss running around showing your face on CNN and Fox News and all this other stuff, getting paid to do these different appearances here and there, be a mouthpiece. I get it. You got the money to hire a car service. The average person does not. And what about cirrhosis of the liver? What about alcoholism? Alcohol's not dangerous at all. At all. You're a liar. You're just a pothead who wants pot, you potted up Potterson. My God, I heard, what was it, Fox and Friends? You guys know, I call them morons in the morning. Steve Ducey. His real name is Steve Ducey, but I call him Steve Ducey because that's what he is. He made a comment about, I wouldn't want people driving around all potted up on weed. Or something to that effect. Like, people are going to be driving around. Jon Stewart actually made fun of it. He pointed it out, too, the other day on his show. I mean, he said, I wouldn't want people driving around all potted up on weed. And there are people that will listen to that show and be like, yeah, they're right. Oh, my God, they could kill somebody. He doesn't even know what he's talking about. That's just as idiotic as that other guy. I have to find the audio of this. I don't know if anybody's heard this anti-gun idiot. I think it was out in Connecticut or New Mexico or something. He started talking about 30, what did he say, 30 magazine? These are 30 they have 30 magazine clips. He didn't even know what he was holding a rifle in his hand, and he was trying to, call it the dreaded assault rifle, and he was referring to the amount of ammo that could fit in a magazine, and he meant to say a 30-round magazine, but he said 30 magazine clip, and other such nonsense that doesn't even make sense. There's a really good video. Somebody pointed it out. They stop and they're like, wait, what? And then they show pictures of like what he said compared to what it really is. And, these are our representatives in the talking heads. They have no idea about what they're talking about, but they'll go on TV and scare the crap out of the general public who's on the fence and maybe not sure, maybe the older crowd who, even though a lot of people would think the older crowd needs swaying, but the baby boomer generation are switching to medical cannabis in droves. But anyway, I digress. Let's finish this up.
Two.
We'll have a glass after the show, and we'll test your
Or
theory.
two. No, it's true. Alcohol is good for you. Pot is not good for you. And in fact, it is very cancerous. Now they're getting these young kids coming in, having heart attacks at very young ages. And it's because they're potheads. And by the way, at least they'll save me money if they just go ahead and die. But they rarely just go ahead and die.
How humane of you.
So, again, find Ann Coulter on Facebook and Twitter, ladies and gentlemen, and let her know how you feel. She said pot causes cancer. That's a blatant lie. Pierce should have challenged her on that because CNN put out the thing by Gupta that even says that pot is used to fight cancer. Look up cannabis oil. Look up cannabis cures cancer. Okay? Look it up on any search engine. Look it up on YouTube. Look it up in my archives. I interviewed Rick Simpson, and I've done multiple shows about cannabis and the health benefits of it. And then she said she hopes all of you pot users, all you pot smokers, all you potheads, you should just die already. How does that make you feel, medical cannabis users, all you sick individuals? I have a lot of individuals that are... I have a huge listening audience. I don't brag about this or anything, but I know we have a huge listening audience here at Truth Frequency. Okay, I know there's a huge audience of people tuned in right now. There's a lot of you that are disabled. There's a lot of you that use medical cannabis for really terminal, or maybe not terminal, but could be on the way to terminal issues, or really just painful issues. Some people are wheelchair bound. Other people can walk around. They use it for other medical issues. Some of you are just potheads who, and I'm doing air quotes when I say that, potheads who, recreationally use it. And some of you are just people who don't even touch cannabis at all. But to all of the people that do touch it and do use it, she just said she hopes you all die and get off her tax bill. Again, find Ann Coulter on Facebook or Twitter and let her know how you feel. This is the kind of asinine arguments that are being thrown around. And you want to know why this stuff can be thrown around? Because people are ignorant to the nth degree. That's why. I didn't actually want to spend as much time as I did on this, but I'm glad that I did because I wanted to point out the idiocy, okay, A, of her argument, B, you can see how Ann Coulter, really is, if anybody out there actually thinks this woman is of any value. She's not. You look up scum, and there's a picture of her. It says, see Ann Coulter. It also says, see pond scum. Then if you look up pond scum, it says, again, see Ann Coulter. So it just redirects you back to her. And there's a picture of her smiling, holding a bottle of Fukushima water while stepping on a joint and spitting on someone ingesting cannabis oil. Anyway, this is the kind of idiocy that's put out there in the media today. Now, you see, the reason I say I wonder if that whole thing was fake is they probably brought her on, or, had her spew this garbage. She's half in the bag on whatever, whether it's pills or alcohol. Right? You could tell she's a little bit loopy or whatever, and she's on there. They present this argument. It's to keep it in this left-right paradigm, right? And it's the right wing doesn't want cannabis and the left wing does. You see how they're trying to frame the argument? Because they understand that eventually cannabis is going to be, people are going to keep pushing and pushing, and it's going to spread. It's the Washington State and Colorado were kind of like the seeds. So now what's going to happen is people are going to want this more as medicine. More people are going to want, more states are looking already into it, right? They're going to realize their revenue generation. So they're looking down the road already and trying to figure out how they can frame the argument and, quote unquote, whose side, left or right, will be the ones to, quote unquote, legalize cannabis. in the United States. That's how the argument is going to be framed. If you understand how these people think that are trying to control your perception of things, that's what they're doing. Okay? At least that's what I see with BS interviews like this and segments about, Ann Coulter's thoughts on cannabis. Okay? So it serves as a multiple point breakdown. A, you see what kind of a human being she is. Barely one. B, you get to see the breakdown of how they would set up this whole argument. And C, if you didn't know any of the medical benefits of cannabis and you actually believed some of the stuff that she said, hopefully I loosened those we'll say ignorant thoughts. Maybe we shook them loose and the ignorance fell off and all of a sudden, poof, enlightenment grew. Anyway, I want to play an audio clip. This is important because this goes to the brainwashing, and I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to let it play because it's significant. This is an interview from 1985 that G. Edward Griffin did with a man named Yuri Bezmenov. And I have the full interview up on federaljack.com. In fact, I will drop the link into the chat room right now. But there you go. If you're listening in the archives later on or on a rebroad, just look up, you can just look up under mind control. It'll be under the mind control section. Or just type in former KGB agent Yuri Bezmenov, and it should pop up. But it's under the mind control section. And the title is Former KGB Agent Yuri Bezmenov Explains How to Brainwash a Nation. And the video I'm going to play for you, and he explains, this is back in 1985, and he was saying that back in 1985 it was already being done for 20 years. So imagine where we're at now, okay? And then look at everything that's going on around you. Look at the stupidity levels. Look at how people act and behave. He's going to tell you the 4 steps to transform the thinking and behavior of a population in just a few generations. And that's what they've been doing since the 60s. And people can say, oh, well, society changes. And yes, societies do change, but to think that individuals inside of said society couldn't steer the way the society changes towards is ignorant. And I'm going to show you how that's done right now. Let's listen to what Mr. Bezmenov has to say.
Our conversation is with Mr. Yuri Alexandrovich Bezmenov. Mr. Bezmenov was born in 1939 in a suburb of Moscow. He was the son of a high-ranking Soviet Army officer. He was educated in the elite schools inside the Soviet Union and became an expert in Indian culture and Indian languages. He had an outstanding career with Novosti, which was and still is, I should say, the press arm or the press agency of the Soviet Union. It turns out that this is also a front for the KGB. He escaped to the West in 1970 after becoming totally disgusted with the Soviet system, and he did this at great risk to his life. He certainly is one of the world's outstanding experts on the subject of Soviet propaganda and disinformation and active measures. When the Soviets use the phrase ideological subversion, what do they mean by it?
Ideological subversion is the process which is legitimate, overt, and open. You can see it with your own eyes. All you have to do, all American mass media has to do, is to unplug their bananas from their ears, open up their eyes, and they can see it. There is no mystery. There is nothing to do with espionage. I know that espionage intelligence gathering looks more romantic. It sells more deodorants through the advertising, probably. That's why your Hollywood producers are so crazy about James Bond type of thrillers. But in reality, the main emphasis of the KGB is not in the area of intelligence at all. According to my opinion and opinion of many defectors of my caliber, only about 15% of time, money, and manpower is spent on espionage as such. The other 85% is a slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in 4 basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. For the last 25 years, actually it's overfulfilled, because demoralization now reaches such areas where previously not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts would even dream of such a tremendous success. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. As I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he is going to receive a kick in his fat bottom. When a military boot crashes then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragic of the situation of demoralization. So the next stage is destabilization. This time, subverter does not care about your ideas and the patterns of your consumption. Whether you eat junk food and get fat and flabby, it doesn't matter anymore. This time, and it takes only from 2 to 5 years to destabilize a nation, what matters is essentials: economy, foreign relations, defense systems. And you can see it quite clearly that in some areas, in such sensitive areas as defense and economy, the influence of Marxist-Leninist ideas in the United States is absolutely fantastic. I could never believe it 14 years ago when I landed in this part of the world that the process will go that fast.
Now, this is in 1985. Now look around today. What's the one thing that never gets cut? They'll cut spending on everything else: education, food for the poor, benefits, anything, right? They'll cut spending on everything except what? They won't mess with certain things when it comes to Treasury, Federal Reserve. They don't mess with them printing out their money, right? That's the economy end of it, right? They don't mess with defense, Pentagon, the war budgets. Can't touch that. Sequester? Oh my God, they have to freak out until they have some sort of last-minute deal, and then all of that stuff gets wiped away and money comes flowing back. The taps turn back on to the military-industrial complex. They don't care what you eat now. Look at America now compared to 1985. No one's really fit anymore. I don't care if anybody says there's a fit craze. There's an obesity epidemic. More air quotes. Looks like he was right. This is back in 1985, and look where we are now, ladies and gentlemen.
The next stage, of course, is crisis. It may take only up to 6 weeks to bring a country to the verge of crisis. You can see it in Central America now. And after crisis, with a violent change of power, structure, and economy, you have so-called the period of normalization. It may last indefinitely. Normalization is a cynical expression borrowed from Soviet propaganda. When the Soviet tanks moved into Czechoslovakia in '68, Comrade Brezhnev said, "Now the situation in brotherly Czechoslovakia is normalized." This is what will happen in the United States if you allow all these schmucks to bring the country to crisis, to promise people all kind of goodies and the paradise on earth, to destabilize your economy, to eliminate the principle of free market competition and to put a big brother government in Washington, D.C., with benevolent dictators like Walter Mondale, who will promise lots of things, never mind whether the promises are fulfillable or not. Your leftists in United States, all these professors and all these beautiful civil rights defenders, they are instrumental in the process of the subversion only to destabilize the nation. When their job is completed, they are not needed anymore. They know too much. Some of them, when they get disillusioned, when they see that Marxist-Leninists come to power, obviously they get offended. They think that they will come to power. That will never happen, of course. They will be lined up against the wall and shot. But they may turn into the most bitter enemies of Marxist-Leninists when they come to power. And that's what happened in Nicaragua. You remember most of these former Marxist-Leninists were either put to prison or one of them split, and now he's working against Sandinistas. It happened in Grenada when Maurice Bishop was already a Marxist. He was executed by a new Marxist who was more Marxist than this Marxist. Same happened in Afghanistan when first there was Taraki, he was killed by Amin, then Amin was killed by Babrak Karmal with the help of KGB. Same happened in Bangladesh when Mujibur Rahman, very pro-Soviet leftist, was assassinated by his own Marxist-Leninist military comrades. It's the same pattern everywhere. It's divided in four basic stages: demoralization, destabilization, crisis, normalization. They will be lined up against the wall and shot.
Now, if you go to that link, if you go to the chat room, the link is in there. If you go to Federal Jack, again, just look up under the mind control section, and if you scroll down, you'll see the headline. It says former KGB agent Yuri Bezmenov, and you can just click on the headline, and it'll open it up. And it's got the shorter clip, which I just played, and then it's got the full interview he did with G. Edward Griffin. It's like about an hour and 21 minutes long. And I suggest you listen to the whole thing because he gets into what he went through in Soviet Russia, the stuff he witnessed. And that's important. Again, history, ladies and gentlemen, is important because what you hear him talk about what was going on in Soviet Russia under communism, right? Under this false idea of communism being good, right? What was really, we all know now, what was really going on over in Russia was completely different than what a lot of people thought was going on. The workers' paradise and whatnot, right? He became disillusioned with what was going on, and then he came to the United States and he saw the same thing happening here in the United States that he had just witnessed going on, in the Soviet Union. And he's astonished. You need to go watch the whole interview. It's about 2 hours long. It's really worth it. Anyway, we're coming up on a break. Stay tuned. We're about halfway through their plan, but we can stop this. We can knock their train right off the tracks, ladies and gentlemen. That's what truth and love does. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. It is January 23rd, 2014. So, first hour, I ripped apart that clip with Ann Coulter. And like I said, I laid it all out, like whether or not it, the possibility of it just being contrived by the producers at CNN or the people, the higher-ups at CNN, through their own way to push a certain message and push a certain paradigm, control the way of thinking. Remember, they think, you have to understand that they do think way ahead of the game in terms of time, and usually they think way further ahead than even most people in the alternative media give them credit for thinking. A lot of times we underestimate them. We call them stupid and evil, and they are in a lot of cases, but there's a lot of them that are smart too, and they do think ahead. So we went over that. I also went over how it, even if you looked at it from their presentation of one side or the other, her argument is completely invalid, and it exposes her as a scumbag of a human being, but it also exposes that argument. Okay, and it goes to show you that this war on drugs and the way of thinking with a lot of concerning a lot of aspects of it, especially cannabis. It's in its death throes, and it's going to go out kicking and screaming. It came in kicking and screaming, and it's going to go out kicking and screaming. So, staying in the vein of the retarded war on drugs, how come we don't see Pfizer or Novartis or any of these other companies being raided by SWAT teams? You know, you'll see someone's house being raided over an ounce of weed, and they kill the family dog and probably shoot 2 or 3 people in the house for an ounce of cannabis. But they won't go and raid Pfizer, or again, any of these other companies. Doesn't you pick one? It's not just one. Any of these huge, big pharma companies, none of them get raided, and thousands and thousands and thousands of people die every year because of their drugs. Their drugs are, you can go look it up, the statistics prove that big pharma drugs are actually way more dangerous than street drugs. Like, you have a bigger chance of dying from big pharma meds than you do from going out on the street and buying coke from the shady guy in the black leather jacket on the corner. Yeah. Yeah. Think about that one for a second. Let that one set in. You have less of a chance of dying from heroin than you do from one of their big pharma meds. Have any of you ever heard some of the side effects of these medications? I know Joe Joseph's favorite is the one for restless leg syndrome. It makes you have uncontrollable gambling and promiscuous sex. So, like, people have gotten up in the middle of the night and gone and just, like, gotten out of bed, gotten in their car, got dressed or whatever, gone to a bar, and, like, cheated on their spouse. And whether or not they did it, you know, knowingly or not, and just used, some people I'm sure probably found out later and used the medication as an excuse, but there are some people that this medication actually altered their personality to the point where they didn't even remember doing this. They'd wake up in bed with a stranger at someone else's house, like, what? Who are you? Ambien, too. Oh, wait, we'll get into the Ambien stories. But before I get into the drugs for a second, I just want to throw something out here really quick. All I've been seeing all morning long is that Justin Bieber got arrested down in South Beach. Oh my God, he was drag racing. Well, I know exactly where he was drag racing. I used to live not too far from where he was drag racing, in the street he was drag racing on. It is a super residential area. There are children there. The kid should have been arrested. The reason why he was saying what the F to the cops, by the way, was because he had paid the cops, I guess, to give him an escort. Okay, and the reason I bring this stuff up is this is the type of crap that's being pumped out to our kids. Remember, mind control, brainwashing and stuff? Okay, this type of obsession with fame, okay, if they think they're doing justice by, you know, flashing it all over the place, Justin Bieber arrested, oh my God, DUI, but you're not doing this kid any favors, and you're not doing any of the future generations any favors either. In fact, what you're doing is you're showing them that bad behavior gets you press on TV and gets you famous. Same thing that they do with shooters. Why do you think there's an uptick in where if a kid is upset, and it's not, I mean, yes, there are shootings that happen, again, that are shady, but why do you think there's this uptick in shootings that happen where a kid brings a gun to school? Now, those kind of cases and scenarios do happen, but because the media is focusing on it so much to control the way people think and scare people, okay, into thinking differently about guns, which I've talked about before, well, now, one of these side effects of that is that kids who are very young and impressionable, okay, if they play these video games, where in the video game they shoot all the time, they shoot and kill their friends, or they shoot and kill their enemy, and they feel better or whatnot. It gives them kind of a release. They don't understand. Their brains are still very young, and although they may understand right and wrong, believe it or not, that does have an effect. Okay, so you have that going on, and then you have the media constantly pumping out school shooting, school shooting, school shooting. So maybe this kid's disenfranchised and he wants to get famous. Maybe it's not a case of an MK Ultra type situation or something like that. Maybe it's not a conspiracy. Maybe it really is some pissed off kid. Well, where do you think he got the idea? Maybe he figures he'll go out in a blaze of glory and be famous. I'll be in history. I'm going to go down in history as the guy who shot up whatever school. Right. Where do you think they get those ideas from? Geniuses. From you people putting it all over the news and from everybody obsessing about it. See, it's a side effect of putting that stuff out there, okay? To them, it's still fame. You might think that's horrific, but to them, well, they're going to become famous. They were hated their whole life, bullied and picked on. Now they're going to become famous. Some people will probably look at them as heroes, and I'll go out in a blaze of glory. And that's how some of these kids actually do certain things. If it really is a real thing. It's not just because, oh my God, they had access to the gun. So the gun woke them up one morning and said, psst, let's go do a school shooting. That's not what happened. You have to look deeper. And yes, some of these cases are shady, but when it comes to something that's real, a lot of them have to do with the fact that, even investigators know this. Copycat killings and stuff like that. One of the reasons when they're tracing a serial killer, they leave certain evidence out from the press briefings is because they don't want copycats to claim, because people will, oh, I'm the killer, or maybe they'll have a copycat murder. They want to be able to tell if it's a real murder or a copycat murder. And there are certain things that they'll leave out of the press that only the investigators or the killer themselves would know. Okay? Same thing. People, use your brains. Come on. And this obsession with fame is ridiculous. I've got to be famous. I've got to be famous. That's what they're teaching these kids nowadays. I mean, who are the heroes that your kids look up to nowadays? I don't have children, okay? But who do your kids look up to? I know when I was a kid, I wanted to be a fireman. I wanted to be, in the military. I wanted to serve my country. I wanted to save people. I wanted to help people. That was what I wanted to do growing up. My idols were I guess what many kids were around my age when I was younger. It wasn't sports stars. I mean, there were sports stars, but still, that wasn't as predominant as it is today. Now, the kids are taught that the heroes of today are basketball players, where these football players, like this kid that's getting all this Twitter coverage and all this media coverage because he made some stupid asinine comment because his team's going to the Super Bowl, and he's like, "Oh, I'm the best there is, woohoo!" Kid's all amped up, first of all, right after a game. And he's got a bit of an ego, so what do you expect? The media did that on purpose. Come on. You're not going to tell me they don't dangle those lines out there waiting for something like that, and then they can harp on it for 10 or 15 days and get all the morons in the country angry about that. Wow, this kid's got an ego. F him. Yeah, let's not worry about anything else that's going on in the world. Let's worry about this crap. Because fame, I'm doing air quotes, fame is so awesome. Why do you think I don't use my real name? It's one of the reasons I don't use my real name. One of the reasons I don't even come close to using my real name. I don't come on air to be famous. I come on air to talk to you and spread information because you know what? One day when I'm dying, I want to be satisfied in the fact that I tried to make this place a better world. And I actually put it out there to make it a better place. Okay? I want to be satisfied with myself. I want to be able to look myself in the mirror when I get up in the morning and know that I'm doing all that I can do to spread information, truth, help people out, do the right thing. Okay? I don't do it for fame. I don't make a dime doing this. I don't make any money doing this radio show. I don't make any money running federaljack.com. Once in a while, I'll get a donation here or there. In fact, I want to give a big thank you because over the course of a couple months, if you all recall, a few months ago, my laptop died, and over the course of a couple months, people donated $20 here or $50 there, and I was able to get a decent laptop because with the donations, it helped pay for a huge chunk of it, and then I was able to save up a little bit more, and between the two, I was able to get a decent laptop to replace the one that died 2 months ago. So I appreciate that, but you can see I run off of donations. I don't run off of a paycheck. Okay, my point of bringing this up is I don't do this for fame. Okay, more people, and I'm not saying that you should follow me because that in itself is kind of egotistical, but I try to lead by example. So what I'm trying to say is if you're gonna do something, don't do it for fame. Because fame, this obsession with fame is ridiculous. It is just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it permeates everything. I even see it in the, this research community, whatever you want to call it. I hate the word movement. That's why I just call it the research community. That's my only term that I could come up with that is acceptable. Okay? So the research community, there are people that have kind of huge egos, big enough to sink the Titanic. And it's, it's like, man, like, check yourself, seriously. Sometimes I keep myself in check, honestly. I know there's a lot of people listening, but I keep myself in check by just thinking to myself that there's only 3 people tuned in. You know what? It's the best way to do it. Because I'm not in this for fame. I don't want to be famous. Okay? I can't stand that quest for fame. It's disgusting. It's sickening. What are we teaching our kids? What are we leaving? What kind of generations, what kind of humans are we leaving for the future generations of this country by teaching the younger generations that all there is to life is fame and money? So then you can make it rain and throw money all around strippers at a strip club. Or you can drive a Lamborghini and get pulled over for DWI. And by the way, the quote-unquote Bieber's Lamborghini, none of these stars, when any of them come down here, own these cars that you usually see them driving, unless they live down here. They rent them. There's a place on the beach. I used to live in South Beach. Okay, there's a place right on 5th Street. When you come over the 5th Street Causeway, MacArthur Causeway, if you're going into the beach, headed east, there's a place on the left-hand side. Maybe it moved, but that's where it used to be. And they rented exotic cars. Okay, and that's what they do. These rappers, these people, they come in. We used to make fun of guys would come in that have, guys that maybe have a little bit of money. They would come in for the weekend. They would rent a car and cruise the strip, pretending the car was theirs, trying to pick up chicks. Okay? South Beach is extremely fake in many ways when it comes to the presentation that's put forth. Okay? But you see people, again, I have to bring this up because these kids, his fans, will see him getting pulled over. Look, man, he's riding with some model in South Beach in a Lamborghini. That's so awesome. It's dope, dude. Look, man, Bieber, he got out and he told the cops, kiss my ass. I'm rich. I got a lawyer. He's so cool. That's the kind of idiocy we're leaving for the planet in the future. I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not. We're supposed to leave this planet a better place. And it's like we came in, had a party for 4 days, tore everything up in the house, crapped all over the floor, pissed all over everything, and then left. That's what we're doing with these future generations. And you know what? It's our responsibility. Just like I've bitched out on air before, not so much bitched out, but I've said it, and I guess I should say I've gotten bitched out for saying that, and Joe has said this too and other people, that to a certain extent, the baby boomer generation, not so much now because there were some in the past that stood up, but to a large part, they were caught off guard and they kind of dropped the ball a little bit. The older generations, it was done so because through media and stuff, because they wanted to be able to control them, right, and push their agenda forward. Like Rockefeller said, if they didn't have control of the media, this wouldn't have gotten, the agenda wouldn't be where it is today. And this is back in 94, 95, somewhere around there. So the older generation, and not that they've, once they are awake, to their credit, the older generations are actually more active, and like I said, everybody makes a difference. But there was this period of time, we'll say, during that generation where you could say that the wool was pulled over their eyes. I've had people say, well, they dropped the ball. I've even said they've dropped the ball to a certain extent. Well, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that person. Okay, that in the future, in 30 or 40 years, someone says, well, your generation didn't do anything. You guys sat back on your ass and didn't do enough. Okay? And I'm not bashing any of the older generations. Again, you guys had the wool pulled over your eyes. There's different reasons for it. But that's why things are where they are today, because the older generations, there was more trust. We didn't have the internet. There's a lot of factors to it. But now that I understand all of this, and I have the ability to reach out to you via the internet, I would be remiss in my duties if I didn't do this. And I don't want to leave this planet a crappier place, and you shouldn't want to either. I mean, these are the future generations are what's going to be controlling this planet, and then they're going to have kids. You get 16 and pregnant, right? You got all these teenagers having kids already. They don't even know who they are, and they're a parent. And now they're going to be trying to be responsible for telling another human being who they are and helping another human being on their journey and begin their own little journey here on this planet, in this blue marble. They don't even know who they are themselves because they've been stunted in their own emotional growth or intellectual growth or perhaps even physical growth. What are we doing, people? And now I'm speaking to my generation. There's a lot of you that are parents, people I grew up with. And you're okay with your kid running around dressed like a little whore. Or using slang terms, or always talking on their damn phone or texting. You should yank the damn phone out of their hand. Oh, Papa, you're not a parent. No, you know what? You're right, I'm not a parent. But I have helped raise people's children over the course of time. And I am an uncle. And I'm not a moron. I could raise a child very easily. Yeah, I'm sure there would be trials and tribulations and there were things that would come up, but I'm not an idiot. I would use my common sense. And you don't have to have kids to understand common sense when it comes to raising them. I don't want you to leave future morons for the planet. How about I don't want my planet infested with idiots because you didn't teach your kid the right things. Because you felt it was okay to stick them in front of Barney and let the TV raise them. They're still young. You can still unprogram them. This stuff really pisses me off because when you go out to the store, when I was a kid, you didn't see kids running around and doing this stuff just out of control the way they are now. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind kids. But you let your kid run around like a little animal, and the way these parents do half the parenting nowadays. You dumb down the generations over the course of time, and then look how they treat their kids, and then these kids are going to get raised, and their parenting skills are going to suck, and then they're going to have kids whose parenting skills suck. Talk about dumbing people down. I know I kind of went off on a rant here, but it's important to talk about this stuff, okay? These movie stars, these basketball players, football players, baseball players, whatever, TV stars, rap stars, music stars, whatever, it's all fake fame. It's all fake. People want to, I would love to live on South Beach. It's so awesome. No, you wouldn't. It sucks, okay? It's expensive. It's overpriced. Everything is more expensive because they have to drive over the trucks have to drive over the causeway to get to the beach. It's not attached. It's only attached to the mainland down in the South Beach area via causeways. There's no big stores. The biggest stores on the beach are like music stores. I think there's a Best Buy on the beach, and then Publix, which is the food store. There's no huge Targets or Walmarts. You got to go downtown. You got to cross over the causeways to do all that. Gas sometimes is 10, 20 cents cheaper in downtown than it is on the beach. Most of the people that live on the beach, the locals, don't live on Washington Avenue, or whether some of them might live up on Washington, but they live west of Washington. Washington and Ocean Drive, and I can't remember the other one that's in between it right now. I can't believe I can't remember the other street. Collins Avenue. Those are like the three main drives in South Beach. And you see people, on TV, it's put out that you see, oh my God, clubs and partying and drinking and champagne. It's not as glitzy and glamoury as you would think. Okay, real life is not like it's presented to you. I don't care if you see it on TLC, on some stupid reality TV show, or you see it being presented to you because some stupid music star, and I'm really what that kid does is not really considered music, but some quote unquote music star gets arrested because he's drunk because you want to talk about entitlement? This kid thinks because he has money and because he's just an out of control and by the way, his father was with him. Very nice parenting skills. He closed off. They took their cars and just blocked off a residential street. And then he got mad at the cops because the cops were giving him private escorts around the beach, which is another thing. Like, why do the cops give these people private escorts? Okay, it's amazing what money will buy you. Anyway, he got mad because he thought because he had a paid escort, he could just block off whoever's private street he wants and drive up and down the street like a madman drag racing in the middle of the night. And that's actually kind of a richier area. In the area that he picks, so there's a bunch of judges and stuff that live around that area, so that's probably why who called the cops. But anyway, that's the kind of attitude that attitude that he has. That's the kind of attitude that the youngins pick up on, and then they do stupid stuff. These young kids emulate morons like that. Okay? These are who our future generations are looking up to. Little punks like that kid. And why? Because he's been put on a platform and given this fame, and he's got bazillions of followers on Twitter, which half of the music industry followers on Twitter and YouTube and stuff, it came out like a year ago that it's been faked, but that's besides the point. So they have him all over YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and all over the world. He does all these concerts, and oh my God, he's a pop star. It doesn't matter if it's a rap star, a pop star, whoever. They're all, same crap. They're famous. Oh my God, they should get special treatment. And the younger generations have this obsession with that fame, and they chase it at whatever angle. You see, girls having eating disorders because they see a magazine model. She's skinny. I have to be like her. I'm ugly. I mean, what are we teaching our kids? Real people don't look like models. And newsflash, most of those models, all of them are airbrushed to a certain degree. But a lot of them, the older ones, they need a lot more work. They don't show you what a real human body looks like. They show you what you want to see. They sell you the perception that they've already tricked you into thinking you want. Get it? Mind control and advertising go hand in hand. Fame is bullshit. It is. Yes, do I try to get my links to my radio show out and spread the links to get more people to listen? Yeah, I do. But not because I want to be famous, because I want more people to hear what I'm talking about, so we could end all this retardation and we can move on to cooler stuff, like exploring space and the oceans and everything else. So yeah, I do spread my links, but I don't chase fame, do I? Nope. Am I perfect? No. But I'm trying to lead by example. Look, fame is fleeting. It's bullshit. Okay? You'll have it for 15 minutes and then people will forget who you are. Who cares? Just do the right thing because you should do the right thing. Stop teaching the future generations of this country. Remember, there are kids, even in your personal life. Just because you're not Justin Bieber doesn't mean you don't have an effect on somebody younger than you. There's somebody younger than you in your life that looks up to you. Well, say at least there's a 50% chance of it. How about that? Or maybe someone that knows you that might be younger, that you don't even realize it, that looks up to you. Or maybe you're walking around somewhere and some younger person sees you and you put off a certain attitude or you come off a certain way or say something. They're watching. They're like little recorders. They're like little video cameras with eyeballs. Well, I guess with two lenses. Or human cameras, I should say. Human digital recorders. The children are paying attention. What kind of example are we setting? Right now, we're telling them that it's okay to run around and chase all this fading, this retardation of fame. 15 minutes and it's in and out, gone. Media's done with you, they'll spit you out, and this kid's just going to get used for headlines. The media doesn't care about him. Most of the people surrounding him don't care about him. They care about money. I'll say it one more time just in case you don't understand. Fame is bullshit. The obsession for fame is even a bigger pile of bullshit. And we need to get over that. Start looking at free thinkers instead of sports players as idols. We'll be right back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Final segment. Tonight's live edition of DTRH. So, final half hour here. I want to get into the prescription drug dangers. Two articles. I'm going to post them both over on federaljack.com, but they're both from alternate.org. And it's under the personal health section. But the first one's titled 6 Drugs Whose Dangerous Risks Were Buried So Big Pharma Could Make Money. Very nice. But they would never do that. The FDA would never do that, right? Check it out. When a prescription drug causes risky side effects, the word often doesn't get out for years, allowing Big Pharma to make money anyway. See, they know that eventually it'll get out, so what they do is they have it put on hold, they release it, they push it, they market it, they have this huge push, they make billions of dollars, and then when the side effects come out, maybe they'll start to regulate it a little more, and they'll start to pull it back and not prescribe it as much. And then if there's any lawsuits, well, they've made billions and billions of dollars. They can, if they paid out fines and lawsuits and everything else, and they only totaled 15 or 20% of these billions of dollars that they made, it's more profitable for them to put the dangerous drug out in the market. It's called a cost-benefit analysis, and these people do it quite often. It's really disgusting. The FDA and Big Pharma contend that dangerous side effects in a prescription drug only emerge when it is used by millions instead of the relatively small group of people in clinical trials. So, I mean, that's talk about an excuse. The FDA, the government's telling you, hey, look, you know, these drugs, the only time that they show their side effects is once the population starts using them. So we have to put it out there and let the population use it. I.e., you are a guinea pig. You understand? You're a test subject. How do you like that? How does that make you feel? Back to the article. But there is another reason the public ends up as guinea pigs. Prescription drugs are rushed to market in as little as 6 months, so the industry can start making money, while safety is still being determined. So they don't even know if this stuff harms anybody, but they rush it to market. Both Merck's risk-laden bone drug Fosamax and painkiller Vioxx were on the market after a 6-month review. In the case of Vioxx, it was because the drug potentially provided a significant therapeutic advantage over existing approved drugs, said the FDA. Thanks for that. And 5 drugs, and there's a bunch of them, which half of them I can't even pronounce the name, rushed through in 1997 because of Big Pharma and congressional pressure. Congress getting their pockets lined. And then when they get out, they end up becoming lobbyists for the same companies. Congressional pressure on the FDA. And then, you know, they just fast-track these drugs. So I'm going to give you, what is it? I think 6 that they have listed here. Singulair. That's one of the ones for asthma. Very nice. Singulair. You'd think Merck would have learned from Vioxx and Fosamax that aggressive marketing can only hide emerging risks for so long. It didn't. To sell its asthma and allergy drug, Singulair, to children, the drug giant partnered with Olympic gold medalist swimmer Peter Vanderkay and Scholastic and the American Academy of Pediatrics, even as the FDA warned about, quote, neuropsychiatric effects, end quote, including agitation, aggression, nightmares, depression, insomnia, and suicidal thinking. While Merck marketed Singulair, which comes in a cherry-flavored chewable formula, to parents with slogans like, Singulair is made with kids in mind. Fox TV and over 200 parents on the website Ask a Patient reported that children on Singulair exhibited altered moods, depression, and ADHD, hyperkinesis, which I have no idea what that is. I'll have to look that one up, and suicidal symptoms. 15-year-old Cody Miller of Queensbury, New York, reportedly took his own life days after taking the drug in 2008. Still, Singulair made $5 billion for the company in 2010 alone. $5 billion. So if they have to give away a couple $100 million or even a couple million in a lawsuit, they don't care. Now, that's in 1 year they made $5 billion on one drug. Get it? After its patent expired in 2012, Australia's Therapeutic Goods Administration, the FDA's counterpart, reported 58 cases of adverse psychiatric effects in children and teenagers, primarily suicidal thinking. All right, 2. Zyprexa. How do you sell a drug that causes 30% of users to gain 22 pounds and some to gain as much as 100 pounds? I know people that took it and they gained weight. By burying the risks, that's how. The antipsychotic Zyprexa, was supposed to be Eli Lilly's follow-up to its blockbuster antidepressant Prozac made with fluoride, even though Lilly knew as early as 1995, according to the New York Times, that Zyprexa was linked to unmanageable weight gain or diabetes. Diabetes epidemic, obesity epidemic of people on medications like antipsychotics, because everything, oh my God, is a mental illness now. Zyprexa's side effects of weight gain and possible hyperglycemia is a major threat to the long-term success of this critically important molecule, wrote Lilly's Alan Breyer, who later became chief medical officer, in their own documents. So these were internal documents that the Times, the New York Times, eventually obtained, and this is one of their doctors who got promoted, and he even says, and I will quote again, weight gain and possible hyperglycemia is a major threat to the long-term success of this critically important molecule, meaning they made this thing, but these are the side effects, and this is really bad for its long-term success. So they already knew this. Very nice. So let's see what else. Seroquel. I know people that have taken that. Like Zyprexa, the antipsychotic Seroquel, made by the UK firm AstraZeneca, became a best-selling medication in the US. Of course it did, earning over $5 billion in 2010, despite frequently reported risks. It was so heavily marketed to poor children, yes it was, that in 2007, Florida's Department of Juvenile Justice bought twice as much Seroquel as Advil. Seroquel's high use in the military for the unapproved uses of sleep and PTSD was also disturbing. Reports of veterans' sudden deaths on the drug, thought to be cardiac-related, surfaced even as use of Seroquel soared 700% in the Department of Defense. In 2009, it was the number 2 drug at the VA, accounting for it's $125.4 million. So, let me see. Well, no, 1.25. Yeah, so $125.4 million in tax dollars on one drug for the VA in 1 year. One drug. They spent $125 million giving out one drug. That's just one drug. One. And that's just to the VA. That's not even to the public market. Now, can you imagine how much the military uses? Because the VA doesn't supply the military with their drugs. The military gets their own stuff from these companies. Notice they didn't tell you how much the military spent on it. They only told you how much the VA spent. How many guys don't go to the VA when they get out? Yeah, okay. Go look up the side effects of Seroquel. Ugh, horrible. Anyway, 4, Levaquin. I guess it's an antibiotic. Oh, yeah, it's related to Cipro. Big Pharma hopes you won't remember, and I can't even pronounce it's fluoroquinolones. I guess that's how you pronounce it. It was withdrawn for causing liver damage, and there was one called Raxor, which was withdrawn for causing cardiac events and sudden death. You ever heard the side effects of some of these things? Like Singulair, the asthma drug. One of the things was it may cause asthma-related death. Why would you take a asthma drug that may cause asthma-related death? Correct me if I'm wrong, but the whole point of taking the drug was to stave off death? Maybe I'm wrong? Okay. I thought that's what it was for. Let's see. In 2012, a year after Levaquin's patent expired, notice it's after the patents expire that's when all these lawsuits, when all this information that look what we found, dude. The patent just expired yesterday, and look what we found. Because they've already made their billions of dollars, these scumbags. A cascade of side effects began to emerge with Levaquin and the whole class of fluoroquinolones, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, that cast doubt about their safety. The Journal of the American Medical Association reported that 4,384 patients diagnosed with retinal detachment were exposed to these drugs. So this drug itself was causing the retinas, whatever the side effect. I guess it was weakening the tissue or whatever, and the retinas in people's eyes were detaching. That's nice. Topamax, which they give to veterans like crazy. Before its patent expired in 2009, the seizure drug Topamax made Johnson & Johnson $1 billion a year, and it still made $538 million a year after its patent expired. Topamax was such a favorite for pain conditions in the military, it was given the nickname Stupamax for the way it slowed reaction times and impaired motor skills. Yep, attention and memory, according to Army Times. Not too great for combat. Nope. Let's see what else, because I have to rush along because I want to get that other article in about Ambien. Oxycontin. Purdue Pharma's Oxycontin is the granddaddy of drugs that made money despite lethal side effects. Along with other prescription opioids, it accounted for an astounding 17,000 deaths last year. 4 times that in 2003. So last year, 17,000 people died because of OxyContin overdoses. Whether it was intentional, they got addicted, unintentional. 17,000 people, over 17,000 people died to OxyContin. Yet, there's no SWAT team raids over on Purdue Pharma. There's no SWAT team raids on any of these big pharma companies. Why? Why? Why are people's houses getting raided, their dogs and themselves getting shot and killed for an ounce of cannabis? Cannabis doesn't kill people. Yes, it does. It causes cancer. And does it? No, it doesn't. It doesn't kill people. Stop it. OxyContin, 17,000 deaths last year. Tell me again how the war on drugs is really a war on drugs. Right. The increase in use has been fueled in part by doctors and pain advocacy organizations that receive money from drug companies and make misleading claims about the safety and effectiveness of opioids, including that addiction is rare. Now, I have a problem a little bit with that statement because part of the problem with that is they attack pain users and doctors that do give that medication to people that do use it. There are pill mills and there are people that smuggle these pills illegally and stuff like that, but I think demonizing pain patients is the wrong way to go. Again, the war on drugs. How about we just allow them to use cannabis and cannabis oil and cannabis extracts and tinctures and things like that, and perhaps they wouldn't need all these big pharma drugs that kill 17,000 people. Again, how many of those 17,000 people could have been saved last year by giving them cannabis oil for pain, which it does help, certain strains help for pain. So you could have given them cannabis oil to help manage pain. But nope, gave them opioids. 17,000 people got to die. Thinning the herd. So you can go see, I'll post the link to the article on Federal Jack, but you can look it up on Alternate. I'll drop the link to this one in the chat room. And then I want to read this one about Ambien, because as I said, Ambien is real. Wow. Okay, I know somebody that they took Ambien, they were prescribed it, and they had they were found by their mother in their bedroom in the corner naked, screaming in the middle of the night that there were aliens coming to get them. And they were given it so that they could help sleep better. And their parent found them in the middle of the night, screaming in the corner of their bedroom. Okay? That the aliens were coming to get them. And this wasn't a person that was prone to even talk about UFOs or aliens or any of that stuff, or even believed in any of that stuff. Okay, and they were screaming, "Oh, they're right there!" Like they were hallucinating. I mean, I've seen interesting stories just from people I've met or people I know. But let me read you this article. Again, this one's over on Alternate too, and I'm going to post a link to this one up. America's #1 prescription sleep aid could trigger, quote, zombies, murder, and other disturbing behavior. Nice, right? Real nice. Here we go. On March 29, 2009, Robert Stewart, 45, stormed into the Pine Lake Health and Rehab Nursing Home in Carthage, North Carolina, and opened fire, killing 8 people and wounding 2. Stewart's apparent target was his estranged wife, who worked as a nurse in the home. She hid in the bathroom and was unharmed. He was charged with 8 counts of first-degree murder. If convicted, he could face the death penalty. Even though there was evidence that Stewart's actions were premeditated, Stewart's defense team successfully argued that since he was under the influence of Ambien, a sleep aid, at the time of the shooting, he was not in control of his actions. Instead of the charges sought by the prosecutors, Stewart was convicted on 8 counts of second-degree murder. He received 142 to 179 years in prison. I mean, that guy deserves to go to prison. because obviously he wanted to kill his wife and he killed 8 innocent people. I mean, not that he would have been in the right to kill his wife, but you killed 8 innocent people, you're a scumbag. But that defense, and a lot of people would think that defense is BS, but wait till you actually hear the side effects. Ambien, a member of the class of medications known as hypnotics, was approved by the FDA in 1992. It was designed for short-term use to combat insomnia and was a welcome change from the prevailing sleep aid at the time, Halocon, which had been implicated in psychosis, suicide, and addiction and had been banned in half a dozen countries. Ambien works by activating the neurotransmitter GABA and binding it to the GABA receptors in the same location as benzodiazepines such as Xanax and Valium. The extra GABA activity triggered by the drug inhibits the neuron activity that is associated with insomnia. In other words, it slows down the brain. Ambien is extremely effective at initiating sleep, usually working within 20 minutes. It does not, however, have an effect on sustaining sleep unless it is taken in the controlled release form. Although the Ambien prescribing information warned in small print that medications in the hypnotic class had occasional side effects including sleepwalking, quote, abnormal thinking, and, quote, strange behavior, these behaviors were listed as extremely rare, and any anecdotal evidence of, quote, sleep driving, sleep eating, or sleep shopping, all behaviors now associated with Ambien, by the way, and they call them Ambien blackouts, were characterized as unusual quirks or attributed to mixing the medication with alcohol. It wasn't until Patrick Kennedy's 2006 middle-of-the-night car accident and subsequent explanation to arriving officers that he was running late for a vote that the bizarre side effects of Ambien began to receive national attention. Kennedy claimed that he had taken the sleep aid and had no recollection of the events that night. After its approval, Ambien quickly rose to dominance in the sleep aid market. And by the way, Kennedy could have been lying, but that's the kind of strange stuff that does happen. It actually changes the way you think. Travelers swore by it to combat jet lag, and women who suffer more insomnia than men bought it in droves. Sanofi, Ambien's French manufacturer, made $2 billion in sales at its peak. In 2007, the generic version of Ambien was released, Zolpidem, I think I'm pronouncing that wrong, but whatever, and at less than $2 a pill, it still remains one of the most prescribed drugs in America, outselling popular painkillers like Percocet and prescription-strength ibuprofen, which the military also gives out like it were Pez. Shortly after the Kennedy incident, Ambien users sued Sanofi because of the bizarre sleep-eating behaviors while on the drugs. According to Chana Lask, attorney for the class action suit, people were eating things like buttered cigarettes and eggs, complete with the shells, while under the influence of Ambien. Lask called people in the state, quote, Ambien zombies. As a result of the lawsuit and of increasing reports coming in about, quote, sleep driving, the FDA ordered all hypnotics to issue stronger warnings. You don't bother taking them off the market because your pockets are being lined too, you scumbags at the FDA. In addition to giving consumers extra information so that they could take the medication more carefully, the warning labels also gave legitimacy to Ambien or zombie defense. So that's why that guy was able to use it. Whether or not he deserved it or not is another thing, but that's why he was able to use it. In March of 2011, Lindsay Schweiger took one Ambien before getting into bed at 6 p.m. Hours later, she woke up in custody with no idea how she'd gotten there. In the following weeks, she pieced together the events of that night. She'd gotten out of bed, drawn a bath, and left the house with her dog. She started driving to a local restaurant, but crashed into another car soon after leaving her house. Police described her as swaying and glassy-eyed. She failed a sobriety test and was charged with DUI and running a stoplight. She had a job that required security clearance. She'd never been in trouble with the law before and was terrified of losing her job and having a criminal record. They initially wanted to impose a 6-month jail sentence and other punishments, but the lawyer argued that her bizarre behavior was a result of the medication, and after taking and even said on the label that after taking Ambien, you may get up out of bed while not being fully awake and do any activity that you do not know you are doing. The next morning, you may not remember that you did anything during the night. I mean, again, it says this on the label. I'll read this again. After taking Ambien, you may get up out of bed while not being fully awake and do an activity that you do not know you are doing. The next morning, you may not remember that you did anything during the night. That doesn't bother any of you? Nice side effect. Reported activities include, this is the warning, reported activities include driving a car, sleep driving, making and eating food, talking on the phone, having sex, and sleepwalking. And it's been used in other defenses too, where people, they got in accidents and they got into, they took the sleep aid to go to sleep, and they wake up and they're in a hospital bed and they're handcuffed to the hospital bed, and they mowed down 3 or 4 people. They got into accidents. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And there are people that they use the bizarre behavior like a drug, like a party drug too. Supposedly it enhances sex. Some people use it as a sexual enhancer because they have sleep sex. Apparently Tiger Woods, according to the article, one of the women that he slept with when she came out said that he used to pop Ambien, and that was one of the things that they popped Ambien for, was to use it as almost recreationally. Here's a little part that you might find interesting. The darker flip side to Ambien's purported sex-enhancing qualities is that it's becoming increasingly used as a date rape drug. That's nice. So they roofie you with something that they can easily get with a prescription. Oh, I need a sleep aid. So they get it. They roofie your drink. You have sex with this dude. Say you're married. You're out with the girls just for a drink. Someone roofies your drink with this stuff. The next thing you know, you're waking up with some stranger in a bed. You don't even know who this guy is. That's nice. That's nice. Nice drug. And of course, if you're reading this, obviously this information has gotten to people at the FDA. But see, the problem is the people at the FDA, it's like a revolving door. Okay, with Monsanto and Big Pharma and all these, and it's the same thing with all these agencies, these big 3-letter agencies. It's the same revolving door. That's some scary stuff. Sleep driving. Think about that one. Next time you're out on the road at 3 o'clock in the morning and you're driving and you see all these other cars driving on the other side of the road, and then you realize that because of lack of funding for infrastructure, there's no guardrail between you and the other side. There's just like a little bit of a ditch which a car could easily travel across and up the other side. Yeah. And then what are the chances that that person could have taken a prescription drug like Ambien? Just great. Just great. Let's keep experimenting with the people. Let's just use them as guinea pigs. Do you understand now that this stuff isn't done to help you out? These drugs are put out there to get you addicted. They knew the addiction, the addictive qualities and possibilities of these drugs. They hide it because by the time the information comes out, they've already made billions and billions of dollars. They made $5 billion in 1 year. So say the information doesn't come out for 5 years, and they make $5 billion a year. Not on all of their drugs. One drug. Remember how many drugs they have. How many billions of dollars are they making? They're probably making $5 billion per drug. If they put out 3 drugs and they're making $5 billion a year per drug, and they're put out 3, that's $15 billion a year. And if it multiply 15 times 5, okay, and tell me if you think that there's a cost-benefit analysis that they'd have to pay maybe $100 million at the most, maybe $50 million, maybe a couple $100 million to one of these families or something, or in a settlement, or in a class action. If they do a class action settlement, maybe they'll pay a couple $100 million. They made $5 billion on one drug in 1 year. Do you think a couple $100 million is anything to these people? It's a drop in the freaking bucket. They don't care. They understand that they're making so much money hand over fist, they don't care. It's more beneficial to them monetarily to let you take this horrific drug, let your kids take it, lie to you. I mean, they actually spend so much money marketing it to you that you give it to your kids because you think you're doing the right thing as a parent, or you're taking it yourself because you think you're doing what you're supposed to do because that's what your doctor told you to do, and you're a lab rat, and it kills you. And they already know this, but they don't release this information until 5 years later because they want to make billions of dollars. Now, who's a real piece of crap? They are, aren't they? Ladies and gentlemen, you need to educate yourself about this stuff. This stuff is dangerous. I love all of you, and I don't want to see any of you get hurt because of this crap. Tell your friends, tell your family, educate yourself, read, do the research. That's the only way we're going to stop stuff like this. Because the more it's exposed and the more people see, the truth, it's like dominoes. And it's spreading. They can't stop it. That's why they're freaking out like rats, cornered rats on a sinking ship. We're out of time, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you all again tomorrow night, live. Till then, as I always tell you, the solutions to our problems are most definitely an inside job. I love you all. I'm out of here.